Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and today we're going to work on a defective bail trip on a Penn International 965 round bait casting reel. And this reel was sent in because, well, when you push it down, it doesn't always trip. And when it does trip, there you go. When it does trip, it's a very rough trip. So I had the reel apart. I thought maybe it would just be some dry grease and the like, and it wasn't. It's worn parts. So we're going to show you how to correct this by replacing all of the worn parts to this reel. Well, this reel is interesting. It has a power handle, an aftermarket power handle. I'm not sure if that's like a Mexis knob or if that one just kind of came with the reel. But other than that, this is a nice example of great Penn fishing reel innovation and engineering, and we'll show you the replacement parts. I've essentially narrowed this down to a worn trip arm, but when you go to do this reel, well, the other 3 or 4 components in that trip lever mechanism are relatively inexpensive, and I think in total the parts may have been $12 or $13. You might as well just go get the others. Because it's like that crooked man who built a crooked house, right? When one piece starts to fail, it has an effect on others, and there's no sense just trying to replace the one piece when there's 3 pieces that'll make it all complete as an assembly. While we're taking off the exterior pieces, as I do, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel. And if you do subscribe to my channel, please hit that notification button. That will enable you to see the videos that I post. And well, you'll be able to make a determination as to whether you want to watch that video or not. And I work on all kinds, and today we're working on a Penn round baitcaster. Tomorrow it might be a low-profile baitcaster for fresh water, and the next day it might be an ocean trolling reel. So I encourage you to please subscribe and hit those notifications, and that'll keep our channel vibrant, and it'll keep you advised of what the latest is. Well, we just removed the star adjuster and the 2 tension washers. This is a good time to tell you, take pictures along the way. If you get stuck, if you're not familiar with the reel, those pictures are going to help you tremendously at the end of the day, because you'll be able to find, well, the orientation of the thing, or what part came off first, or which one goes back first, or so on. And that will save you time and energy, and, well, maybe you don't have to send me a reel in a bag project, which seem to be coming in every now and then. The 2 screws are going to enable me to remove the side plate. That whole side plate can come off. Again, I've serviced this reel. I don't need to I'm not going to do the video to service the reel, just point out a couple of things. You do want to make sure that you oil the back. If you want to clean that, this side plate comes off by removing the small screws. There's 3 small screws on the inner ring here. You would remove those. And you want to make sure you oil the bearing on the spool. Those are your 2 bearings that are going to control your cast. And then you have the inner gear drive here for the reel. So to get to the inner gear drive, you're going to want to remove the 2 small screws. This is one time I actually used my small screwdriver rather than for removing screws, rather than using it to take out the old dirts and greases. I use that small screwdriver as a scraper most of the time, and actually I can still use the bigger one here. These are the 2 most annoying screws in reel repair. They're very difficult for me to get back in. That's just me. Alright, those 2 screws are out, and when I take my pieces and parts off, they all go into a parts tray. I use a fast food container today. Tomorrow it might be the bottom of a milk jug, who knows. But when I do go and use those, they hold all my pieces, and when I go to repair and return the reel to its original form, well, I know where they are. 2 screws are out. We simply move up on the case. And again, this has been serviced, but let's take a look. All right, so this is a place where you want to take a picture. What does it look like before you get busy taking it apart? Well, all right, gear stem, gear sleeve, main gear with drag washers, 2 springs sitting on top of the posts of the yoke, the pinion gear, the jack, and the trip mechanism. So we're going to take all of those off. because we've got to get to that trip mechanism. So I'm going to remove those two springs first, and the reason for that is they tend to shoot, and if you're not paying attention, well, you're probably spending time on your bench looking for them. Next up then, we're going to remove the main gear and the drag washers, starting with the collar. Then we'll pull this whole main gear assembly up. And we're going to note under the main gear we do have a washer, and we have this click ratchet. You'll notice that the click ratchet has kind of a rectangular, two flat sides, two arc sides. That's important to note when we go to set it up. And here's the reason for failure right here. If you look at this trip mechanism, it's got a stud right there. I hope you can see it. That stud should be round and flat, and it's rounded over here. That was the clicking you were hearing. It doesn't sit high enough for this click ratchet to grab it and turn it. So what's happening here is you've got a slope kind of going down at an angle, and that's why you're getting that failure there where it's not tripping. Well, we could simply just go replace this arm, and I think from what I recall, the arm is like $6, but the yoke, the jack and the button are only a few dollars more, and that rectangular piece that has the trip, well, because it's been banging against this, there's a fear that maybe we've compromised the teeth on this as well. So that's only $1 or $2. So again, I think the parts before shipping were only about $12. I think maybe the whole thing by itself was probably $15 or $17 worth of tripping. You just noticed that I removed the yoke and the pinion gear. I'm going to put that into a parts tray. Now we can take off the core parts. So I'm going to start by removing these two springs. These are mirror image springs. They're not identical. I find that if I push the button down, that releases the tension on the spring, and then I use a sort of a mini pliers to just pull it up. Grab it firm because you don't want that to shoot. And when you take this spring, notice that that right hand hook that's going to go into that jack, that's the left hand side. And again, they're mirror image springs. So when we go to do the same on this one, you're going to notice that the hook goes to the other direction. All right, those two go into my parts tray. This whole assembly now, this jack assembly and the button, I can simply pull out. Then we have our trip mechanism with that worn stud. So I'm going to try and grab the spring off. And whenever I work with a spring, I try to cover as much of that as I can because I don't want that spring to shoot. And then we have the slide screw that's going to hold that trip arm out. Well, if you're rebuilding a reel, you probably want to do the same thing I'm doing here. You want to remove all of these pieces. That's going to enable you to clean up underneath. You can see I cleaned up, I re-greased. But it may be more apparent now if you look at the side of this trip, you're going to see that it's not flush, but well worn over here, and that rounded edge is what's causing this thing to fail. Well, the folks at Mystic Parts were able to provide me with a replacement. So let's go ahead and work our way backwards now with that. This is the replacement. You can see the difference. The stud is higher, it's square on the top, a nice round profile to it. That's all the things you need to concern yourself with as you do this. We're going to grab that spring. I'm going to place that over the side here and onto the new piece. There's a little ridge in this spring where that tag end is going to sit. Once I do that, then I can come back in, place this down. I already have grease in here as I just did the service, trying to think maybe it was just stuck grease. But if you don't, put some grease in, but don't overload the grease. Simply use a well, I'll call it a light coating of it. You put too much in and you don't pay attention to the reel, what's going to happen is that it's going to evaporate, it's going to gel up, and then it's going to slow the performance of that trip mechanism. I put a little bit of grease on that screw top there so it holds it. And then once you do that, go ahead and make sure it slides up and down nice and easy, which it does. And then I'm going to use a pick now, and this may take a minute. But I'm going to use a pick to set that hook end on the other side of the spring. If I can't grab it with that, I'll grab it with the pliers, but I much prefer doing it with the pick if I can. Just one of those habits I've gotten myself into. And again, there is a little slot on the post on this one. So that's how your mechanism is set up. Down. Now we'll take the replacement parts here, your jack. That comes in two flavors. I have a jack and then I have the button. Let's go ahead and make sure we can put that in. On this button, you're going to notice that there is a side that kind of is tapered down, corner to corner with a taper. That's going to face outwards. That's so when you push your finger down, kind of more ergonomical. Going to be able to set that button right on top of the post here. Just press it in. There's nothing to secure it. On the back of this one, we will put a little bit of grease, even though there's grease in that tray. And while I'm doing that, this is a good time to tell you, if you have a question on this reel or any fishing reel, maybe you're working on one and you're a little stuck, if you leave that question in the comment section, I will be happy to answer that for you. All right, we're going to just slide that up. That seems to slide in and out very nicely. And when you go to set this one, it's going to kind of push this mechanism out a little bit. You can see it here like that. And that's the proper set for that. All right, we're going to come back in now. We're going to find the replacement click ratchet. And that will essentially complete the first part of this with the replacement parts. Again, there's two flat sides. When you look at the taper here on the bottom end, you're going to see two flat sides there. And this must sit flush like that. It can't sit any other way, or that stud here will not engage with those slots that are needed to trip. Before I install the yoke, I want to take the two springs. I'm going to push down on this assembly now. You can already see I just pushed down. You can see how nicely that little stud fits into that slot. That's exactly the way it should happen. And we're going to put the two springs on. So this, almost lost it, this spring here with the hook. If you got questions on it, you would go back to your pictures, take a look, see how it goes. I'm just going to grab the piece. It's going to go into the hole in that release lever. Fortunately, I have large hands. They weren't exactly made for this. All right, I'm going to grab the tab of that spring then. Just going to push it in just like that. So this is how your spring goes. Tag end in the hole. The flex side of the spring pointing up. The second part wrapped there. We get to do that again on the opposite side. We'll get that in. I'll hold that over with my finger. Go ahead and grab the other side of this. There we go. Just takes a minute for me. Better patience. All right, so now what you'll see is when we flip this, these springs are going to pull that whole assembly up, and it's going to release your free spool, and you'll be able to turn your reel. So we'll do that one more time just to show you before we cover it up. You'll notice that this washer's got to sit on there. I popped that out when I just did this. But you'll notice that the click ratchet here there we go. Got the click ratchet on. That stud will sit in there. You'll turn the mechanism. And that's going to push the release up and allow you to reel away. All right, well, that was probably a lousy demonstration. I will apologize for that in advance, but that's how it works. I'm going to take my yoke now. Again, all of this has been serviced and it's fresh grease on here, so I'm not going to go through that showing you how to do that. We're just simply going to take the slotted end of the gear and place that into the carrier, and that needs to go through the hole in the back side of the reel. I'm going to take the back end washer, which is going to hold that click in position. And because I get questions from time to time, and because this is a kind of a, you can do this for a full service video as well, I'll show you. There's 3 washers that come next. 2 of them are round. One is a bigger exposed one. I suspect that this might be an aftermarket set, but that's okay. The wider one will go below. You have 2 rounded washers, and you have an eared washer. So going from top to bottom now, we put the first washer in. We're going to put the round washer in. This is called a keyed washer. It's round, but it has 2 flat sides. That goes next. Then we're going to put the first of the fuller washers in. The middle washer is called a keyed washer. It has a big open circle center, but 2 tags on the end. Those tags go in the slots of the main gear. Main gear is the last one. Then the second of those slotted ones are keyed washers. And then we're going to take the collar that goes on the shaft, and that's your internal workings of it, with the exception of those springs. So the 2 springs go on each side. We take our case, and we've cleaned the AR clutch, but you don't oil that. That's a friction-driven device. We're going to take our plate, look for the indentation in the plate. That's going to go along with the quick pre-spool release. Press everything down and make sure you have a nice tight fit for those 2 screw holes. Well, those are kind of the bane of my existence. I'm getting a little bit better at it, but not a lot. So we'll just kind of play around with these for a moment and make sure that these get set up as well. This one's a little bit better. There's one out there, the 940s, the Level-Matic reels, where they don't have the lip in the case. And I can clearly spend minutes and minutes trying to get those in. This one, at least you have a little slide kind of protection there, or enabler there, to let you set that screw. All right, well, I think I got away pretty good there. Didn't take a lot of your valuable time to show you that. All right, well, we're going to put this on. We'll put the reel back together. We'll give it a test. We'll see how we do. When you go to assemble the side plate, look for the notch. That's where your free spool lever is going to go. Make sure you hear a nice crisp click like that when you do that. Anything less than that means something is jamming. Don't force it. Take it back out and find out why something is not meshing properly and correct it rather than force it. I receive reels from time to time that are all jammed up, and people say, you know, before I took it apart, it worked fine. Now it's very tight. Well, it's tight because, well, something was amiss there. All right, we're going to put those 2 tension washers on, then we'll put the star adjuster on. There's 2 tension washers in the middle, therefore getting the right feel of the star adjuster. And this one, I think, see, I should have taken a better picture of this. I think that this was on the outside. There's 2. This one looks like it's got all the wear from the nut being tightened down in that. And I think there might be an issue here with this nut cap, because as I was doing this with the nut cap, I noticed that screw didn't seem like it was holding very well. So it may be that there's the original Penn screw there, but that the screw needs to be extended in order to grab this hole, or maybe it doesn't match that hole. That's a 12mm nut. I just tightened it down with my 12mm wrench. Oh, it does come through, so I guess we're okay there. And I grab that. We'll put the screw back in. Maybe it was just my imagination. And then we'll see how we did. All right, well, that doesn't seem like it's holding very well. All right, let's spin the reel, make sure that it's working. It's working really nice. Big time test now. We want to push our release button. That's releasing, and more importantly, is it tripping out. Tighten down on the drag. There you go. That's it. So that's how you replace, update, and correct an issue that had to do with the rounding of the stud on the trip lever. I hope you've enjoyed that. If you did, please like it. If you want to see more, please subscribe. To all of our first responders and essential personnel, thank you for everything it is that you do to keep us safe in these times. And to all, please stay safe, stay well, and stay watching. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.